and I couldn't afford what was winning the races, and I was coming second to last. But as the years rolled on, and all of a sudden got into a better car and got more finance, I could afford a better car. I'll give you the background. I mean, there's always one time in your life, or sometimes more than that, where something happens that puts you on the path that you really wanted to be on, but couldn't do it by yourself, Yep. And this path for me was a guy called Jim Carney. That escort that's on the wall there, from England, which has won the British Touring Car Championship. And then we won the New Zealand Championship, and then things rolled on, and we built the Mustang. But in the meantime, I was doing rallies, I was doing speedway, I was doing circuit racing, hill climbs, sprints, anything in any car that I could do it in. So it's that's sort of the journey how I got to winning the New Zealand Open class for saloons, which you sort of you want to do when you're a young fella in the class, but never think it's going to happen. Because not enough money, and then the cars you're competing against are far too quick.
What jobs were you doing at that age?
I was a apprentice motor mechanic. Yeah, the first wage was £5.16.
Jim, have you ever found someone much younger than you, you thought maybe he'd be a much better driver if he got in a better car?
Yeah, hell yeah. I mean, you can't take the opportunities that you're given if you haven't got the equipment to do them.
Yeah.
And it's the same in football. Some guys don't get picked, but they're gun players. They just miss out all the time. Well, same with car racing. When I used to race against guys in the escorts and stuff that would beat me, and I'd beat them. And they were guys who didn't get probably that chance or didn't take it. I was happy to give up everything I could. I financed my cars to the hilt so that I could just afford them and then try and modify them. Fortunately, we didn't have to modify them a lot in those days. We didn't have any roll bars, roll cage training, and no overalls, so you raced in a jeans and a t-shirt type thing.
Wow.
I used to race in bare feet. Socks on, but no shoes.
Wow.
Because I had a bit of feel on the pedals. But eventually, obviously, I got a pair of race boots, but they were expensive. The bloody thing, The questions, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Was the Mustang that you came over here with, was that the Sid Chrome one?
Yep. The Mustang in New Zealand started life probably my favourite car in a way, because it was built from a virtually brand new Boss 302 Mustang.
Yeah.
And we took the Boss, paid $5,200 for the Boss Mustang, done 5,000 miles, and it was immaculate, absolutely pristine. We took it to an old farm shed on a farm, because you do all these things in secret when you build cars. You don't even else to know what you're doing, And we built the Mustang, but we just tore it apart. Cut the guards, and tore it apart, Now they're like, nearly 200 grand.
Yeah.
And we came over with that car, but painted differently with the motor move back in that day.
Yellow and the
yellow
red.
And red. Yeah, so
that was a while ago.
That was in 75, yeah.
Yeah, I was a flaggy at Amaroo.
Oh, was that right? Amaroo, great on the track.
Yeah, 75 to 79, Bathurst and Amaroo.
Even that Mustang, and when we built it, we didn't know if the rear springs that were in the car were the right springs. We didn't know if the front springs were the right springs. You hopped in and you drove it. If it went reasonably quick, that's all right. So you didn't fiddle around with it. You just
developed your own technology.
You drove it around. If it had a little bit of problem, you just drove around the problem. And if you weren't going quick enough, you sat down there to think to yourself and try a lot harder.
So what's the plans for the Javelin? Like, you obviously built that one after the big hit at Sandown with the other one.
Yeah, well, that car there, no, she's retired. She's looking good. It's all been repainted and straightened and no stone chips.
So we won't see that back on track ever?
Not with me driving it, unless you'd like to buy it.
What about...
That wasn't an offer. That wasn't an opening negotiation point.
Phil does have a problem saying no to cars.
Never can sort you can all buy it.
He's saving his money.
My last 2 meetings of the 7-race series, I drove a GTR, but this actually won 2 rounds of the championship, and it was enabled me to win the last round in the GTR. Now, had I had that car for the last round of the championship, I probably wouldn't have won the championship, because it wasn't quite quick enough, but the GTR obviously was, so we won. So both cars really won it, but I had the chance to buy that back about 10, 12 years ago, and that's the condition that it finished racing in, basically.
Wow.
It was built brand new in the beginning of 1990, at the same time as the GTRs were being built. When I say scrap, it wasn't scrap, it was all new parts they had for this model car. and they had to just get rid of them. So they built a brand new car for me in 1990, which was that. So that car there is done probably since 1990. It's probably done 10 race meetings.
Wow.
From then, you know, I bought off a chap who bought it, and then his business wasn't too happy, so we had to sell it.
Is it turbo?
Yep, it's yeah, have a look. This is old school. This is exactly how we used to race them. But it's a 2 litre, 6-cylinder, rear wheel drive, and in the race trim it had, which is the same as this, but you've got an adjustable boost. You can't get it unless you stop and take your belts off. So it produces about 460 horsepower, but it was always 100 odd horsepower less than the Sierras at the time. That's what made it hard, and that's what made this car a bit special, because it shouldn't have won. Sierra should have won.
What sort of boost would it be pushing through?
1.5 bar, which is not a lot.
A bit under 20.
Yeah.
A bit under 20.
And only because the turbo, you know, it needed a slightly bigger turbo, then it would have been okay. So you can only run them up to how hot the turbo wheel gets.
Right.
If you go over that sort of heat range, that's when they fail. So you can't just screw it up and do a couple of laps, you know. But it was a terrific car to drive, really, really good. But that was how you had to have it. You see this little thing here? There's an airflow meter off the original motor. Well, you had to have the airflow meter on the car.
So it's just holding it. So
Put it there and use it.
That'll end up a good investment for you, then.
Yeah, it has so far, but I don't want to sell it yet. No.
Yeah.
I might race it again, but like, it just starts up, no problem. The favourite period is normally the period you had most of your success and that in, I suppose. So I mean, I like the Group A era, but I like the Super Tourer era as well. That was NASCAR, to me, was fantastic. A lot of guys poo-pooed it, but tell you what, you know, to drive a NASCAR fast around an oval, you've got to be pretty switched on, and you've got to know what you're doing. All that, the Targa Tassie's brilliant, you know, imagine getting in this car and going as fast as you want all around Tasmania.
you're still doing it?
Yeah.
I only go on the tour now,
Yes.
which means you're limited to 140 kilometres an hour, and you lead a group of cars along. So this year I'm going that with Barry, my co-driver, for something like 90 odd rallies, and so it's just for promotion really. But it's just as good as the competition. You go over all the same stages, and I was just saying to someone, you know, you look out the window in the morning when you wake up at about 6:30, and you look out the window and it's absolutely hosing down. If you're in the tour, you think, fantastic, got the heater, the air conditioning. I can just drive along at a safe speed. Where you're competing, you look out and think, shit, I've got to drive as fast and as hard as I can in that.
Winning Bathurst, what are your thoughts on that? Yeah.
Well, that year, Brocky was really driving well, and I was driving good as well. And there probably wasn't a driver combination as quick as us.
Yeah.
So what we had to do was have the right car and the right reliability, and we're laughing. But you didn't realise that at the time. All you did was go out and do the best you could, just drive it flat out.
Yeah.
And cars slowly dropped by the wayside. So we didn't win by 6 laps because we were 6 laps faster than anyone.
It's just others.
We just did our own race and went as fast as we could. I think we led nearly every lap.
Yeah.
And the cars just kept falling apart. We were leading anyway, but the opposition kept crumbling. But I didn't know until after the race that we won by 6 laps.
Really?
No. I didn't ask. I should be winning.
Could you tell from the pits how that Brock was going for the last lap? Like really?
No one knew anything about it. No.
It was just in his own head.
Just I don't even think he thought of a lap record after he'd done it. Of course I thought it. I think the car was so good. He was just trying to prove that the car was still ultra fast, even in the very last lap, you know.
Yeah.
And it was real good. You know, we could have bought that car for $40,000.
Yeah.
After the
Everyone's got one of those. Not that. So was Sheppo was happy with you running at that sort of pace? He would have been controlling that,
So
I guess.
those days, all we had was a lap board with numbers on it, type of thing. And basically, the first time I drove in '78, all they wanted me to do was drive to a number, as in, so they put out a 226, or I can't remember what it was now, but 226, and so I'd do the same things as I did the lap before, the next lap, and I'd say 226, and then all of a sudden I went to hell to buy some cars or whatever, and Brocky was the same, and all of a sudden I'd see it 228, so then I'd speed up a little bit to get back to the average of the time.
Yeah.
But before that race started, I'd never driven that car before. Now I think I had a touring car championship race at Adelaide International Raceway where I drove one of the spare cars, but I can't think whether that was 78 or 79. But anyway, but when we got there, the car was basically ready to race, and we did minimum laps. I did 6 laps in the whole of practice, and that just allowed me to get in the race because that's what you had to do in those days. And Brocky didn't do a lot more. I mean, they polished the air cleaners, they polished the rocker gutters, and they changed the diff and they changed the gearbox, but I'm pretty sure it was the same engine because it didn't do a lot of work. And they didn't have qualifying engines or anything like that because there was no top 10 or anything. Reasonably easy. I hopped into my bit, Brocky did his bit, and whatever. And then 79, same thing exactly. And then 1980, same thing. We probably weren't the quickest car over a lap at all, but in the race, the car, it's like the evolution I was saying about which is the car you like the best. 78 was brilliant. The car was handless, did everything great. 79, shit, it did everything better and had a bit more power. In 1980, the Commodore didn't have as much power. But whether or not it was a wider track and the flares made it run a bit wider tyre, but it was just consistent, and we beat them by just continually running fast lap times in every stint.
We had a really good time at Jim Richards Racing. When we got there, he gave everyone a handshake on the way in. It was a small workshop, but he had some unbelievable stories. That's why they call him Gentleman Jim. He was such a nice guy.